This month, we've been talking about delegation, and perhaps you've tried to delegate a little more or a little differently. One question I get asked a lot is, this is all well and good, Carol, but what happens when the person I delegated to doesn't do what I asked them to? They don't do what was delegated to them. This has happened to all of us. It makes me think of a situation a couple of years ago when I had hired a new assistant, and I had asked her to start writing some content, some posts like this that I could post on LinkedIn and Facebook and different places. And I thought we had a really good conversation about it. I thought I had shared what I needed. I thought we had agreed to a specific date that this was all going to be done. But when the date showed up, there wasn't anything. And when I asked about it, she's like, yeah, I haven't worked on that yet. Now, my first internal reaction, even as I think about it today, my insides are just frustrated, right? It is so natural, particularly when we delegate something that feels important to us and feels like it matters, and then it doesn't get done or doesn't get done the way that we expect it to. It is really natural to get really frustrated. Okay. There are a couple of things I want to encourage you to do when something doesn't happen in delegation the way that you expect it to. The first thing is always assume the best and start with a few calm statements and questions. So let me give you some examples. First, we're going to assume to start with that this didn't get done because they didn't have the resources they needed, they didn't understand the expectations, something along those lines, right? We are going to assume that it wasn't just because they blew it off or didn't think it was important. Now, we might find out in the process that that's true, but honestly, most of the time it's not. Most of the time, employees don't do something that we expected them to do, not for personal or selfish reasons, but because they didn't really understand or they didn't really know exactly what to do. I will give you some possible statements you could use. Last Monday, we discussed the content project. My understanding was that you were going to create 4 draft posts before we met this week. Was that your understanding as well? So what you can see is I restated calmly what I thought my expectation was, and then I asked a clarifying question, like, did you understand that as well? That's the first opportunity to find out if the employee says, no, that's not what I understood, right? Or maybe they did. If they say, yeah, I did know that that's what you expected. My next question is going to be, what kept you from getting that done or what kept you from reaching that outcome? Right? Again, what this does is it allows the employee to tell you what got in their way rather than you making an assumption about what it was. This is where you get to be open-minded, look for what you might have missed. They might tell you and that they didn't understand the expectation, that they didn't have the right resources. They might also tell you, I've just been really busy and I didn't get around to it. All of those things are possible, but then we are going to provide feedback based on what we hear. We get to decide at that point, do we leave this responsibility or outcome that we've delegated with them and provide what is missing and provide calm feedback and give them another opportunity, or do we take it back or delegate it somewhere else? Most of the time, our best chance is to give it back to them with clarified expectations, additional resources, making sure they have everything they need. If this is a person that you want to invest in the long run, and you want them to be in this role and to do well and to be engaged, then we need to give that work back to them with clearer expectations, better resources, etc. Give them a second chance. There is sometimes a point with somebody, right, where they're not going to stay in this role, and that's okay. But if they're going to stay in the role, then as hard as it is, you really need to try to give that thing back to them, but with whatever else they need to get it done, right? Remember, this might be new to them as well. So not meeting your expectations is not always a predictor that they're never going to step up to the plate. A lot of times, particularly if we're delegating new things or somebody is new in a role, they are going to make mistakes. And it's our job as supervisors and managers to find out why that happened and to put in place things to create better results in the long run, right? This is us taking joint responsibility with our people for the results. To me, this is the hardest part of delegation, y'all, because truly, like it is my instinct. If something doesn't get done the way that I want it to get done, and I will be honest in that story I told you earlier, I did not do this. I did not ask good questions. I said, well, I really expected it to be done, and I pulled it back and I did it myself, right? That person no longer works for me. It didn't work out. And a lot of that is my responsibility because I did not put in place the training and the effort to make sure that we got to a place where we could really be successful together. So, when delegating, remember, it is not every single time is not going to be a success story, but it can still be on the path to success if you are willing to stay calm, ask good questions, provide good feedback, and give people a second chance.